Hi there. Welcome to a new episode of Branding with Friends, the show where branding meets key business topics. Here you're going to learn tips straight from the experts on everything from hosting VIP days to inclusivity to delegating the details. We focus on what you can do right now to use these topics plus the power of branding to attract your ideal clients. I'm your host, branding expert Annie Franceschi of Greatest Story Creative. I help service business owners tell their story and show their value through clear messaging and consistent branding. I'm also a former Disney storyteller, a professional speaker, and the author of 2 best-selling books, Establish Yourself and Permission to Try. And today, I'm really excited to introduce you to one of my new friends in the business world. If you have been creating content or curious about creating content and you want to make the most of what you've got, you're going to love today's guest and today's episode. My guest today is the incredible Dominique Dunlop. Dominique is a former teacher turned digital marketing obsessed Canadian mom of 2. Through her done-for-you content repurposing services, Dominique helps you develop a low-effort but high-traffic marketing strategy that will allow you to be everywhere your clients are without leading to content burnout. Oh, who doesn't want that? Thank you for being here, Dominique.
I am so excited to chat with you today, Annie.
Yes. And here on Branding with Friends, we're going to be talking about content repurposing, how that intersects with branding. And I love this topic because I know I have been on the content creation train for years. And I think the art of not going nuts or not burning out is being smart with your content. So I was so excited to learn that this is a zone of genius for you around content repurposing. Before we get into, Dominique's going to share her 3 tips. We're going to have 1 tip at the end. So make sure you stay to the end to hear how you can connect with Dominique as well. But before we get to those sort of action tips, could you just tell me a little bit, like, how did you get into this world of content repurposing?
Through a series of online rabbit holes that I tend to fall down. As you mentioned, I'm a former teacher. And when I left the classroom, I turned to the digital online space to try to figure out my next steps. And I've gone through kind of a series that's led me to here. I'm also a Pinterest strategist. And really what I was finding with my Pinterest clients was that a lot of them, even though they wanted to be using Pinterest and their audience was there waiting for them, and they really could be leveraging the Pinterest platform so effectively, they didn't have the content side sorted out. And if you don't have that, you don't have a Pinterest presence. So that kind of one thing led to another. I started doing some content repurposing and blogging for some of my Pinterest clients. And now I've kind of got the 2 sides of my business, and some of my clients are just content repurposing. Some of them are just Pinterest, and some of them I do the whole deal for them. Yeah.
So just so we all are using the same language, because some people may be new to this world, how do you define content repurposing?
Taking the content that you've already created. So for a lot of my clients, that's a podcast that they're focusing as their core content, and then slicing, dicing, chopping, squeezing all of the goodness out of that until you just aren't creating content for all those other platforms. You can focus in on your zone of genius and get all of that content that you need to be omnipresent and market your business across multiple platforms without just spending your life creating content.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of pressure that marketing gurus kind of put on all of us, especially the coaches and consultants of the world, where we feel like we've always got to be churning out things.
Yeah.
But so many of us don't realize that if we send it out once, almost nobody saw it, right? And that even things like this, I think Branding with Friends is a great example. The average episode is about 20, 25 minutes, that we say nuggets here that could easily, between both of our work, be chopped up and shared on Instagram, LinkedIn, written up. Like, I'm sure there's lots of things you'll share with us today, but thank you for kind of downloading us on what we mean by content repurposing. What is that? And so, I know you brought along our tips today. If you're a coach, consultant, or service business owner, what is the first step to getting started with content repurposing?
Don't repurpose everything. I see so many people that they go all in. We're going to start repurposing. So they're pulling everything that they've ever created and repurposing. If you're not focusing on if you're not focusing on repurposing your best content, I like to tell my clients, it's really no different than putting lipstick on a pig. If it wasn't good content to begin with, it's not going to be good content necessarily in a different format. So really honing in on what content is really speaking to your ideal audience, what content has your really strong core messaging that you want to be sharing. Because the reality is you really don't need more than a dozen, maybe 2 dozen pieces of good, solid core content to repurpose like crazy and keep up on all the platforms. You don't need to repurpose everything.
I think that's a really good thought, especially those of us who have a lot of content or years of content, that it's not about chopping up absolutely everything you can. And this is where I think there's those intersections with branding. It's branding at its heart is a lot of making decisions about what you want to be known for.
Yeah.
And so it sounds like a big tip for you is going through all of your content and looking at it with a strategic eye of, well, if somebody found this, like, does this attract the right person, right? Is this what I really, maybe it was what I wanted to do in the past, but is it what I want to do now? Because content for content's sake, it's not about, a lot of what I'm hearing for you is like, it's quality over quantity.
Absolutely.
And you can turn the quality into quantity by doubling down.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that was our first tip that you shared with us, which is to repurpose our best content. What is a second thing that we should keep in mind?
One of the biggest things that I do with my clients, well, when we're finding that best content, first we start with a content audit. And that's where we're really digging in. What content do you already have, or what ideas do you even have that maybe we should be digging deeper into? Once we've got that content audit and we've decided what content makes sense to focus on the repurposing, then we take it, and as that content's repurposed, turn it into an evergreen content bank. Because if I have that evergreen content bank sitting there always ready, it's never going to matter if my kids wake up sick, or I want to go on vacation, or I'm just so burnt out from whatever my current launch is that I couldn't think of coming up with a new idea, even if I tried. I've got that evergreen content bank sitting there, so I can always pull from it. Some of that content may have already been published. Some of that content might have been created, and its sole intention is to sit there in my content bank for those days that I just need to pull something. Maybe my kids, when summer vacation rolls around, if I've got that good solid content bank, I might be able to sit down in the spring, plan out my entire summer of content without ever actually turning my phone on, recording anything new.
I'm sure that's like music to people's ears, right? I love that the strategy, like, I'm big on strategy. A lot of people are big on tactics. I'm big on strategy. What is the point of all this, right? So I love that you've done it in this order, which is, if you have a lot of content, focusing in on your best content. The second step being, take that content and turn it into an evergreen content bank, so that you are not on this constant churn machine. And it sounds like there's some permission in here to be able to repeat yourself. How do you feel about that?
Yeah. Why not? If you think of TV commercials, how many times have you ever seen the same TV commercial? They want you to. That's the whole point.
The quicker picker upper, the jingles. Yeah.
Right. And I think back to our childhood, which my kids aren't going to experience this because they're Netflix kids, but I think back, like, I know all the jingles to the Christmas toys that were coming out and the cleaning supplies. Like, I know them. Why? Because that was the whole point.
Yep. They got played and played and played and played. Yeah.
And I find in the online space, all of a sudden people start panicking and for some reason think they're boring their audience when they're saying the same thing repeatedly.
Yes.
Well, we were talking briefly before we got on today about clear messaging.
Yeah.
And if you're not saying the same thing repeatedly, your audience really doesn't know what you're offering. If you change gears every week, I don't know what you offer.
Exactly.
That message, it has to be so clear and it has to be repeated. And that's the beauty of content repurposing, is it's not a copy and paste, spray and pray kind of method.
Yes.
We're taking it strategically and we're turning it into different formats, getting it in front of different audiences, first of all, because as far as boring your audience, nobody cares about your marketing nearly as much as you do.
Yeah, truth.
Nobody even knows that you posted that reel 6 months ago. And you know what? If they do, so what? It was 15 seconds of their life. Like,
right. Yeah. But I think we carry sort of some assumptions, suppositions, things that were from the analog world into our online lives. The things are, people get tired if we repeat the same things.
Yeah.
But I love that you use the analogy of the commercials. Andrea Jones, who's one of our friends here on Branding with Friends, has come on and talked a lot about how you should be bored by your message.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer in that, because you like say it like a jingle. One of the things I talk about in my new book, Establish Yourself, is this idea of playing your hit song. So
Yes,
that's
love
what
that.
branding is like deciding on what your hit song is going to be.
Yeah.
So having it professionally produced, getting it out and getting on the road and playing the song enough that people learn the lyrics and sing it back to you. And then they want the album, right? And then they want the t-shirt, and then they're going to tell their friends. But that never happens if you are constantly changing the lyrics and the melody. Like, no one gets to learn your song to sing it back to you. And that to me is like I think this is so well aligned to the world of how to repurpose content. And I think this is just a message that people really need to hear. So I'm really glad that it's not coming just from me, as I always try to share it, because it's like, and I have to tell myself that too, because I think for years, I just looked at all these marketing gurus and went, oh, they're always creating new things every day. And this is so hard. But if I looked at it as a simple equation of, I think you said something like 12 to 20 really great pieces of like, what is it you teach? What is it you believe? I'm constantly working with clients, coaches, and consultants who are really not clear on like what they teach, what they're selling, because they think a business is just selling a skill set, and it's not. It's having a perspective and a point of view. So what is it that you believe, and how are you talking about that? I think, if it comes out in a podcast, great. If it comes out in a blog post, but what Dominique is here to say is that those things can be then chopped up and put in front of new people to experience. And you don't have to constantly come up with new frameworks and concepts and ideas. You just need to make sure that people are hearing them consistently, like a hit song.
I love that analogy. That's such a perfect analogy. And to tack onto that, when you have a song artist, they're going to put out albums. Not every song on that album is going to be a hit and climb to the top. But when you fall in love with that artist, then you're going to buy their album and find those other songs and those other gems. And that's kind of what all of that extra content that you have is. That's those gems that are going to lead the audience that really has fallen in love with you.
Yeah.
You're going to pull them even further. But those hits, that's where we want our marketing to be focused.
Yeah, that's how people discover you, right? Like, that's the thing of that's like that magic. And I think there's just so much in this angle of things. Like, just so many people talk about content creation and not enough talk about what to do with the content you have created. So I'm just so glad that you are on that bandwagon and preaching that, because I think it is really important. And I love that you're talking about these sort of cut down pieces of content or content repurposed as the B-sides and my favorite song on the album is one people don't know, but it's like my thing, and the fan building, right? That this creates and the world that it creates without you having to do a lot of work. I think you said it in your biography, low effort, high traffic. I'm big on that, like low effort, high impact, low cost, high impact, like let it double, triple, quadruple work for you. So I love that you've shared that. So far you've told us we should repurpose our best content, really double down on the kind of work we want, what we want to be known for. Then we should take that content and really wisely put it into a bank, so we are not constantly on this wheel of sharing new things. So we kind of take the time. I call it batching. I know some other people call it batching, sitting down for a couple of days to kind of get it straight. And then you're good to go for a year or more. Who doesn't love that? Yeah. So I know you've got one more tip for us, but I also want to make sure that people can connect with you after today. And I know that you've brought along something fun for Branding with Friends listeners. So what is it that you have brought along that would help us on our content repurposing journeys?
I have a guide for you that is how to create an entire month of content from one podcast episode. So that's going to give you your content for your blog, your email newsletter, any of your social media, all pulled from one podcast episode. And it's got kind of my step-by-step of how to do it, along with a sample content calendar of how you could actually distribute that over a month without boring your audience.
Oh my gosh. And without burning out, who doesn't love that? So if you have been on a podcast, you have no excuse then to get this awesome guide that is going to help you learn at nothing less than a strategy for how you can repurpose things. I know Dominique is a great resource for this. We'll make sure that the link is here wherever you are listening or watching Branding with Friends. You can connect with her and check that out. And if today's episode has gotten you thinking, well, gosh, I don't know what I want to be known for. I don't know what kinds of content and stories I should be sharing to begin with. I help with that from a branding, done for you branding services and business coaching perspective. You can always hop on my calendar for a free consultation at greateststorycreative.com. Don't miss the big red button in the top right. But I'm so glad that you were here to talk about content repurposing, Dominique. So we talked about, focus on your best content, build that evergreen bank. And what is that third thing we should keep in mind?
Can I sneak in a bonus tip before we get to that?
Absolutely.
Okay. So here's one of the bonus things that I share with a lot of my clients. In addition to using that best content, also looking for pockets of content that you might not really actually know you have. For example, right now, as we're speaking, I have my phone sitting beside me running on video. It's actually running on a time-lapse video right now. But whether you're recording it with audio, recording a time-lapse, whatever it is, record B-roll all the time while you're working, while you're in a meeting, while you're talking to clients, because there are so many gems and little gold nuggets that will come out of those. I'm sure from this conversation alone, I could probably go in and find 10 little audio clips to make 10 TikToks or Reels or Instagram stories, whatever it is, or something that one of us have said that could be pulled out as a quote or just a gold nugget from the conversation. So use your phone. It's always with you anyway.
Yeah.
And as somebody with ADHD who's easily distracted by my phone, if I'm using it to record something, I won't actually touch it.
You can't play with it. Yes.
Yeah. So it works kind of double duty there.
Double hit. Yeah.
That's just kind of my bonus.
Thank you.
But the other thing, the tip that I actually wanted to share was you don't have to do it all yourself, and you don't have to do it all. Like, forget not even doing it yourself. You just don't even have to do it all. When we say, repurpose your content, when we say omnipresence, and when these gurus are preaching, be everywhere, do everything, they're not talking to me, who's a mom of 2 little kids racing around, just trying to keep my head above water. They're not talking to you if you're a solopreneur just getting your foot in the water. You can't do it all and you can't do it well. So choose the platforms that you really want to be on.
Yeah.
I like to make sure that we've got a discovery platform. So that's normally TikTok, Pinterest, Google, if you're doing blogging and focusing on SEO. So some sort of discovery platform, some sort of nurture platform. For a lot of people, that is like a Facebook group or their Instagram account. Email is another nurture platform that I really like to focus in on. But choose your platforms wisely. You cannot be a LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Reddit, and Twitter superstar and run a good podcast and a blog.
And sleep.
Still sleep and
have a family. Have a life.
family.
Yeah.
You can't do that by yourself.
You can't do it well, and you can't be profitable. A big thing about it is you can't be profitable, and you can't, and even if you are profitable, you can't do it for a long period because you will burn out. And so what good is that? Right. So like sustainable strategy is like picking, it sounds like a sustainable strategy, like picking your best content is picking your best platform. Maybe a discovery and a nurture platform. A discovery, I would assume, is a platform where you are more likely to encounter new people. Like people are more likely to encounter you when they've never heard of you. Yeah. Right. So TikTok is probably like the latest and greatest for that, where the algorithm is serving up content that you don't necessarily follow and inviting you to follow it. And then nurture is about, I would assume, building relationships over a period of time.
Right. And once you've got those platforms, you're rocking and rolling there, then start looking back at that same content. You don't need anything new, and figure out, what else could I do? So an example of this would be, I've been on Instagram for a long time, like most people. Recently, I've kind of started to jump ship on Instagram because it's not serving me the same as it used to. So what I'm doing now, I'm really doubling down on LinkedIn, but I haven't created anything new for LinkedIn. I've doubled down on going through my Instagram content bank to figure out what actually makes sense to repurpose on that platform.
Yeah.
Because that's something we have done, that your content, it can't be copied and pasted. Each platform plays a different game, and you need to cater your content to the platform and the audience.
All the more reason you can't be everywhere, nor should you try.
No, no. So really digging into that content bank and just, how, with the minimal effort, can I create a presence on a new platform is really the best way to start.
Yeah. Smarter, not harder. And and I know that there are individuals such as yourself, and we've had a past guest, Brandon Berkmeyer, who also does this, people that you can hire to actually cut up these clips for you and help you come up with a strategy of how you repurpose them. Right. So that's part of the piece of, you don't have to do it all or do it all yourself.
And you don't have to do it all now.
Right. Yeah.
Store that content. Like, you mentioned that you've got books, you've got tons of previous content.
I have so much content, Dominique. We could have so many conversations
now. If you've got that content bank, great. When you're ready, then we dive into the content bank and we start pulling that gold nuggets out. We don't have to do it today.
Yeah, I think I appreciate that. And I'm big on permission. And I think permission to do business differently, marketing differently, very anti-hustle culture, right? Like you don't have to be on your phone all the time. It's not good for any of us, right? And also this content creation train. So thank you for helping us, get off the train, get out and see a few things in our life, enjoy the islands that we want to go to instead of being stuck on that constantly travel mode, and getting to actually enjoy the content that we've created and have it bring our ideal clients to us. So anything else that you want to share with us, Dominique?
I don't think so. I think that really kind of covers the big basis there.
Well, I've learned so much today. So I know that you shared with us that we should always start by focusing on what our best stuff and what we want to be known for content going forward. And then we should take that and build a repurposing bank, an evergreen bank of our content. You gave us an awesome bonus tip, which is always be thinking about content, for especially B-roll, have your phone recording video of yourself or audio of yourself, because you're creating content without even realizing it. And then that really big final tip, which is you don't have to do it all, and you don't have to do it all yourself or right now. It sounds like. Well, thank you again for joining us. It's been a pleasure talking with you about all of this.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was great.
Awesome. Well, and we hope you guys enjoyed yet another episode of Branding with Friends. So many thanks to my special guest, Dominique Dunlop. Tune in next time when we're going to tackle yet another topic where branding and business meet. Till then, I'm Annie Franceschi of Greatest Story Creative. You can find all of our episodes, branding resources, and so much more on our website, greateststorycreative.com. Stay awesome.